I'm now going to take the time to go over 3 highlights from the 6 breakout sessions, and these are things that we've heard from you in terms of feedback and recommendations or thoughts. So session 1 was recognizing the different types of trauma. And so I'm going to read these notes. They're handwritten, so if I sound a little bit choppy, please forgive me. But they're actually pretty good handwriting. All right, so one of the highlights was trauma. So childhood experiences of abuse are held in our bodies and are visible in health problems in adulthood. And more traumatic experiences lead to more health difficulties. And this is compounded when whole communities are dealing with trauma, discrimination, and poverty. Another highlight of the session is our grandfathers' experiences are carried by our mothers and ourselves, and now our DNA expresses trauma. And the other highlight for this particular session, there is hope and resilience in ourselves, in our Indigenous teachings, spirituality, ceremony, and relations. Our generations are healing each other. So that was 3 highlights from session number 1. In session number 2, this session was responding to trauma and grief through arts. So one of the highlights was funding for culturally appropriate arts programs, federal funding to not sure if that's to support communities need funding as ground searches proceed. It must be Indigenous-led and accessible processes, and the OSI, the information on website on funding. So I'm not sure what that particular word is. Pardon me. The other highlight for this session is communities should be meaningful to community and done in collaboration with survivors, family members, and community. Should have opportunities for hands-on participation as part of the healing process. And the third highlight for this session is the process is healing for the artist and the community, because it sparks spirits to heal and share this with others so that children will come to the fire and communities will heal. So hopefully that made, those are one of the highlights for that session. For session 3, this was the National Advisory Committee panel, and this was with presenter Crystal Fraser. The first highlight was you heard from both Leah and Marcella that their projects are guided by elders and survivors, and it is important that it continues that way, and because it ensures searches proceed in a cultural and safe manner. One of the other highlights was many concerns were raised about physically bringing children home to families, and there's a need to consider the challenges and trauma that comes along with this process. And there was a comment from the audience: our past leaders, chiefs, lawyers need to be recognized for the work they did in bringing residential schools to light. There has been pushback and activism from our people for years, and they deserve the recognition. Session number 5, knowledge sharing circle, good practices and lessons learned in caring for communities throughout the search process. One of the highlights was water has spirit, suggests water ceremony for all those unmarked graves to honor them. The natural law of water, placing of the birth on ice in the Arctic, spreads the blood of all women who have given birth before. Next highlight for this session is we are in an identity crisis and need to inform ourselves, learn our language, and teach our children and grandchildren. Suggest ceremony, clan system teachings, calling buried children's spirits home, and healing for the whole community. And the third highlight for this session is to involve today's youth, build their awareness, rites of passage for our traditions, and through curriculum in schools, ceremonies, and on land. The final session is another knowledge circle, good practice and lessons learned in caring for the frontline workers who lead and carry our searches. So one of the highlights is a lack of funding for community-led searches. And the recommendation should be, funding should come from accountable bodies, such as the churches and federal government. Another highlight for this session is the lack of wellness supports for folks and communities involved in uncovering remains. More training for Indigenous people to provide care, healing centers in the community. And the final highlight for this session is the lack of resources. No support team, no therapists, no crisis support. Tangible resources are required, such as equipment. So those are the highlights from the 6 sessions that were done, and those were your voices, and these will be put in the record moving forward. All right. All right. I'd like to call on Reg Nipanak, who's from the Pine Creek First Nations, to close us in a prayer.
Agishamantu ningegek wabimaingan mikohi pastamustus ganata wabisi. Miwes sema mai e bimini goan e bigwedge migoan chai chandami anama. Miwen nongum e gijtu angman nongum. Dashmanum kigijep men angebijamen. Kichimi gretch ugugai kaijichige atama tibeganon diang. Jimmy Getch ugoin nini ukma gabija chibiai he binagamuat chigego abinoji yakunje he gaga gigiskitu achigie atmi onje en jibija angamano ongum shigumenawa abang. We Jew who go up in Ujiak, Chigiskitu wat Kirino Achigie wat. We Jew Anishna Bechi, Pintiat Matutsan, Junja, Kogwejima Chibigie at me mounja. Me webe goedwan. Chimi gwetch biket. Chimi gwetch away qua ebi nigan eat manongum Kimberly Murray. We Jude. Chigishkitut where chibid kijitut gagi majitut. Me webe goedwan winanja. Shigoga kena maga nukiat. Biwichio, Bishawanem, Biganoenem. Shu Kenaginawa, do Maganak, Iginawa, Chimigretch the kit. A big way. Kendamang anin, Chiji, Quakedutamang. Oguga gini boat, Chimigretch speak it. Hey, Chigego. In short, I'm going to say that I've given thanks for obviously Kimberly Murray for starting this, but also give thanks for all the workers, all of you, my relations. And is Buckeye still around? She's my niece, and I wanted to give her a hard time because I'm another family member of hers. And it just proves the point that I make about how we are all related in this province. You know, almost every reserve where we can find relations. So thank you very much, and I wanted to thank. I also said thank you for the guys in the drum group, and Ichimigwech. Hi hi. Oh, yeah, which gig it was? Okay. So I've just been asked to talk a little bit longer. I do want to share one thing. There was a gentleman this morning. I don't know if he was. He talked about an uncle that died in the Second World War. And I went and found him this morning, and we had a moment together because I told him that I was part of in 2005, I was invited to go to Belgium, to a little place called Kemmel, and help build a ceremonial site for elders. 2005 was the year of the veteran. I was invited by a retired major by the name of Ed Borchert to go and help build a ceremonial site, which we did. Long story short, I was appointed as the elder for the group. And the last thing I did was I made sure that the grounds were left in good order. And there was a small fire still burning, and I put tobacco down, and I said a prayer and asked if there was any spirits still there that wanted to come home to Canada to follow me, and that I would be flying home. All of us would be flying home to the next day. I heard a voice in Brussels, in London, and in Ottawa at the airports. And I quickly figured out that because a voice behind me, and I'd turn and there's nobody there. So I recognized that this had to be a spirit, at least one for sure, that came with us, that wanted to come home with us. And he let me know he was still there until we got to Ottawa. I don't know where he got off because I was identifying where we were as we came along, and I've never heard his voice again. So I told this gentleman this morning that we did what we went to do. We brought spirits home. And part of my prayer was go into the sweat lodges and ask your relatives to come home that were murdered in residential schools. And it will happen. So, and I'm glad I got a chance to tell you that. And because it worked with the spirits of the past elders, military men that died over there. And it'll work with the children here too. Chimigwech.